It's time for the Newsmaker Show on News Talk AM 1480 WLEA. Here's Kevin Doran.
Brian O'Neill in for Kevin Doran today, and we have in the studio with us a man who's very pleased that Jeb Bush, looks like Jeb is going to be in the race. Dr. Robert Heineman, thanks for joining us.
I think it is interesting that Bush has pretty much declared himself a candidate for 2016, and you have to ask yourself a number of questions. One, why he would do that at this fairly early date. Well, more than fairly early date. Now, of course, what did he say? He's exploring aggressively the opportunity to be president.
One of those exploration committees.
Yes, right, which allows him to collect money and do other things legally, and obviously kind of puts his name out there as an official possibility. And I'm not quite certain why he would do it this early. I think probably he's decided that he's going to frighten or perhaps push other possible candidates off to the side. They either have to make up their mind, are they going to go, or the longer they wait now, the farther back I think they will tend to be. It'll be harder for them to pull back into the race. So I think is kind of a way he's looking at it, and we'll see what some of these other candidates do. Whether he'll kind of jolt people like Christie and Romney, for example, into becoming more active, and then you have Jindal, and you have Rand, and you have.
Do you think that Chris Christie, after the Bridgegate scandal, is a candidate at all?
Oh yes, absolutely. I think he's a candidate. He thinks he's a candidate, and I think he's been pretty much absolved of all that Bridgegate discussion. In fact, one of the New Jersey committee set up to investigate this absolved him of any connection whatsoever. Now, on the other hand, it happened on his watch, and it was his staff who were involved, although I think he fired most of them pretty quickly in the thing. So, no, I think he's been out raising money and touring the states, and I believe he is chairman of the Republican Governors Conference, or whatever they call it. I think the biggest problem for Christie is his continuing playing footsie with the Democrats, so that I think his touring the beaches there with Obama just before the 2012 election hurt Romney a lot, and I think his toting around with Cuomo here during the Ebola scare while Astorino's running for governor, and his refusal to endorse Astorino hurt Astorino. And so I think that's the sort of thing Republicans are not going to forget, and justifiably so, frankly. So I think that he's shot himself in the foot in that sense. And I don't know.
I wanted to ask you, the Democrats won't forgive Christie because
the Democrats,
of
you mean the Republicans? Or, the Democrats.
I mean the Democrats.
Okay.
The Democrats would not forgive Christie because of the Bridgegate. The Republicans, the Tea Party element is kind of weak on him because of the reasons you just mentioned, helping Cuomo and helping Obama. Independents, how many of them are there, and how important are they?
Well, the independents are quite important. For Republicans, there's no question about that, because I think nationally the Democrats still outnumber the Republicans, although not nearly to the extent they used to. But in states like New York and California, it's 2-to-1, 3-to-1 differential. Not that there are any Republicans going to carry New York or California in the near future, but then you have states like Ohio and Indiana and Michigan, especially Ohio and Michigan, where the independents are tremendously important. And I think there, in Ohio, for example, Casey showed that he could carry independents pretty effectively. So, they're important. And so your line of thought here is that somehow Christie is going to appeal to the independents.
Just wondering.
Well, I'm not so certain. I mean, he obviously is in a kind of middle of the road Eastern Republican tradition there, so I suppose he'd have more appeal, obviously, than some other people. But in terms of somebody like Jeb Bush, what you're looking at here is almost a juggernaut of political power. First, you have a candidate who has obviously a political structure from two previous Bushes that still is in place in a lot of the areas of the country. And then you have the ability to raise money. Obviously, you have name recognition. You have a man who's been a two-term governor of Florida and a fairly popular governor of Florida. Additionally, he's married to a Hispanic. The whole family speaks Spanish backwards and forwards with no trouble at all. Plus, you have a tie between Florida and Texas and the whole southern tier and southwestern tier of American states. I think you have a very, very tough candidate there. Now, I was listening to Rand Paul the other night on Fox, I guess, and the question was, well, what about Jeb Bush's endorsement of Common Core and the opposition to Common Core? And I think he can handle that really easily. Obviously, he can say Common Core worked effectively in Florida, but my view is that the implementation of Common Core should be up to the states. The key objective here is to improve education for Americans generally. And in that sense, he can, and I think he will, basically say that's up to the states and the state associations. I don't feel as president it's my place to go around trying to push people around. So I think he can handle that reasonably well.
Who would a Jeb Bush running mate be?
Well, that would be, of course, a wide open question. Again, I'm a big fan of Condoleezza Rice, and that's a possibility there in that respect because obviously she's been tied to the Bush administrations for some time. And that would, I think, that'd be the way I'd go. But I don't know if she wants to run. Who knows how that would play out. Obviously, it does undercut a Jindal, I think, a little bit because you'd have two governors from the South. It would leave an open for somebody like Kasich, though. So you'd have another governor from a pretty important Midwestern state. It'd make a pretty tough combination. Now, in terms of another Bush, first of all, I don't think that's going to hurt him much. I think when people start talking about another Bush, et cetera, having three Bushes as president, you could do a lot worse. But it does, it brings his name to the fore, and it gives him an opportunity to discuss his talents. I think if you move over to somebody like Hillary, for example, my goodness, first woman president and such, she's carrying a lot of baggage, obviously. And one of the biggest totes that she has is her husband. And people have suggested that maybe Bush, has his brother. But I think what Bush is carrying is his father, H.W. And his father, frankly, is very highly thought of in the country. So that I think Jeb Bush's response is, my brother's fine, and he generally support him, but I'm my father's son. I'm not I'm not an offspring of my brother.
Well, I think the liberals would say the Bush baggage is warmongering is what they would say. What would the Bush camp say back to that?
Well, I would say his father handled the first Gulf War pretty effectively. And in terms of making decisions and acting to thwart dictators and such, I think H.W. Did a pretty good job. Now, if you want, and I don't think Jeb has needs in any way, shape, or form to defend his role, what his brother did. I mean, I'm certain he's not going to criticize him, But on the other hand, siblings are siblings. You may be familiar with that idea yourself. So the need to defend that is another story. Now, what's interesting right now, Brian, is that increasingly President Obama is looking better and better, and especially in the area of foreign affairs, so that I think John Kerry, for whom I have really very little use, on the other hand, can begin to point to some accomplishments out there, and the more accomplishments he has, the worse Hillary looks as former Secretary of State. So that Kerry, in terms of putting Putin back on his heels, the Russians are in serious trouble now in their economy. I mean, really serious trouble. The Iranians are continuing to say, well, look, we want to negotiate. We want to put together some sort of agreement here on nuclear power. They're opening the doors to Cuba, which I think is a very good thing, and will help both Cuba and the United States. And there are one or two other areas, I think, where Kerry is and Obama are showing some actual progress. So the more they do that, the worse Hillary looks.
Well, you talk about Hillary. Dr. Gary Osterauer was on the Newsmaker here a couple of days ago, and he says, I said, what about Elizabeth Warren? The liberal wing of the party is pushing Elizabeth Warren. Gary Osterauer says it'll be Hillary. My question for you is, if an Elizabeth Warren did win, would Hillary come back in some role? Would there be a Hillary role?
No, there would not.
Why not?
Well, I think she's done, and I beg to disagree with my colleague, Mr. Osterauer, because we rarely are at odds. I say that facetiously. But the fact is that President Obama and his people will do everything they can to stop Hillary Clinton from getting the nomination. And the point I'm making here is that Kerry, as Secretary of State, is going to, I think, begin to turn up some real accomplishments. The economy is beginning to look better and better and better. And so I think there's a real chance here that President Obama is going to finish his last 2 years in pretty good shape. And I think it really behooves the Republicans to help him out, to make him look as good as possible in the last 2 years. Because the better he looks, the more support he's going to get from the party. And when Hillary starts bouncing around out there, I think she's going to find more and more people who are. And you can see, not to finish that thought, but you can see now the Hillary people are beginning to take shots and pushing Hillary. I note that 3 or 4 now have come out, and there have been op-ed pieces and things of that sort, because her cadre there is trying to hold on to something they see slowly beginning to drift away from them.
If we could get back to the Republicans for a moment.
Sure.
The Tea Party versus the establishment, that is always the question, at least in the last couple of elections. And the big question is, if the Tea Party stays home because of Jeb Bush, are there enough conservative Tea Partiers out there to make a difference, or are there more establishment Republicans now?
No, I think you've got to have the entire Republican base activated here and working for you. And I think Bush can do that. I think the key in the 2012 election for the Republicans, as it will be in the 2016 election, is good candidates. And if you get good candidates, Tea Party or not, they're going to draw Republicans to the polls. And I think this last election, some of these candidates had Tea Party affiliations, like the guy down in Louisiana, but they're reasonably intelligent, articulate people, and so you're bound to have a few of the Tea Party types slip in there, but that's neither here nor there. It's a big tent. As long as they're not stupid, I think the Republicans will be fine.
Now, the Tea Party says that John Boehner is a traitor in Congress. They wanted Trey Gowdy in there. Tom Reed says that Trey Gowdy does not have the numbers. will they remember Trey Gowdy's votes in 2016 in terms of John Boehner on immigration and Obamacare?
Well, we don't have any idea what immigration is going to look like. I think there's going to be some sort of compromise on that, and I would bet heavily that Obama and the Republicans will come up with something reasonably acceptable. As for Obamacare and the Affordable Health Care Act, that's in effect. It's going to stay there. It's not going anywhere. There are some changes that need to be made, and I'm sure the Republicans will move in that direction. So I don't know what to say there. I think Boehner, frankly, has done a tremendous job and continues to do so. And this is proven by the fact he continues to pick up seats in the House of Representatives. We've got more Republicans in the House, I think, than since 1928, which isn't a big year we should push as Republicans, let me put it that way, but nonetheless, it goes back that far.
Final question for you, Dr. Heineman. This is a state question. State Health Department on Wednesday issued their report, and in their report they said no, too many uncertainties about the safety of hydrofracking for us to allow it here in New York State.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate. I think the inability of the people in Albany and downstate to understand the plight of the people upstate is simply demonstrated by this. The power of organized interest to spread fear and uncertainty obviously has been very effective here. And you talk about the sign. I would guess, now I don't know, I would guess we're the only state that has made that kind of declaration. And it's going to unfortunately hurt the people in the southern tier. It's going to hurt them badly, and it's just unfortunate.
And we're just about out of time here on the Newsmaker Show. Brian O'Neill, I've been filling in for Kevin Doran here on the Newsmaker Show with Dr. Robert Heineman, the professor of political science at Alfred University. Was there any final thoughts you wanted to share with us?
I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I get a chance at a Happy New Year maybe a little later, but a Merry Christmas, go get them.
All righty. Thank you, Dr. Robert Heineman.
Thank you.